Wonderful. Well, I'd like to say a very, very warm welcome to our ladies here on this evening's Kushulia UK Women Empowerment event, which takes place on the third Thursday of every month. Courtesy of Kushulia UK and Ritu Sharma, the CEO and founder of Kushulia UK, is with us. She's also a Women Empowerment Ambassador, and that's how this platform started. She's an actor, a co-producer with a production company, an entrepreneur. She is just an amazing woman. I don't know how she gets all the things that she needs to get done, but she does. And a wonderful friend as well. So a bit about Kushulia UK. Well, no, actually a bit about me. I never remember to talk about me. I'm Carol Edmondson, and I'm a volunteer host with Kushulia UK and have been since June 2020. I'm also a health and wellness advocate, and I'm involved in blockchain project as well. So back to Kushulia UK. Who is Kushulia UK? What do they do? It's a registered not-for-profit community organisation to empower and uplift women, and it's growing organically with the aim to empower women, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women, with the unique objective to support those who are in dire need, but also to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional, and financial growth. Projects include education, personal and professional growth, health and well-being, financial education, and entrepreneurship. Also workshops. There's another volunteer, Zina Kular, who coordinates workshops for anyone who wanted to do a workshop. It's about 40 to 45 minutes long. And let me know if you're interested in that, and I'll put your name forward to Zina. So we also have live events and a face-to-face event in our local area in Warsaw. There is also a social media presence, which includes a WhatsApp group, Facebook. There is a link as well, and the website. So there will be an opportunity to ask questions once our speakers, all four speakers, have spoken, where there'll be where you can interact with our speakers and audience together. And while each speaker is actually in flow, if you'd like to jot any questions you have in the chat or make a note of them so we can ask afterwards, that would be wonderful. And I'm so happy to introduce you to our speakers. I'll just call you by name, give us a wave. So we have Charlotte McCanch, we have Susie Mackie, we have Karen Yankovic, and has Sadie actually entered the room yet? I can't see anymore. Is Sadie with us? Not yet. Okay. So while I introduce you to Charlotte, and while Charlotte is speaking, I will try and connect with Sadie. So it's been a while, Charlotte, and I was so looking forward to hearing you share this evening. I am so looking forward to it. And Charlotte, the introduction to her, the title of her talk is Parmesan Cheese, a Journey of Resilience and Triumph. Introducing Charlotte McCanch, a remarkable woman whose life story is a testament to the power of determination and self-belief. Born in Sweden, Charlotte embarked on a life-changing journey that took her from the greenery of her homeland to the bustling streets of America at the age of 18. Her path unfolded in a way that she could never have imagined. Oh, this sounds so intriguing, Charlotte.
I got to live up to it now.
And I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and and thank you, Carol, for pushing me out of the comfort zone. This is actually the first time that I'm completely going to share a little bit of my journey, and I'm hoping that it will be about courage for people who need that, encouragement for people who may need that in their life right now, and taking action. So, have you ever felt like a Parmesan cheese. You know that little hard bit that gets stuck at the back of the fridge, and it's only that horrible hard bit left of the cheese that nobody actually wants. Everything else has been grated away and there's nothing left. That's what I said to my friend 6 years ago. That's how I felt. There was nothing left. I literally felt like the hard bit was the only thing that was left. It was far from the confident 18-year-old who went to San Francisco, had never been on a plane on her own before, and I decided to travel. Travel was everything I wanted to do from as long as I can remember, to be honest. And I went off to New York, changed planes, arrived in San Francisco without my bags because they'd got lost on the plane. But that was okay because, you know, what do you need at 18 years old? Not very much. I ended up with this family that I didn't know, and they took off for the weekend and left me with the 4 children on my own. And which I was quite surprised about. I was 18 years old. The oldest daughter was 16. And to be honest with you, she was a little bit of a spoiled girl. There was also a severely disabled child. So my first introduction to disability and what that could mean. She was my hero, to be honest with you. She was amazing. Also, a 6-year-old boy who had severe mental health issues and could one minute be absolutely amazing and you could talk to him, and the next minute he would chase you with an axe outside. And it wouldn't surprise me, having grown up and knowing a bit more about mental well-being and so on, that he might have been schizophrenic, but I didn't know. So I decided to take the courage and change family. And I arrived with another 4 children and their lovely parents. And the first thing they did that evening was write me lots of messages saying that they loved me. I thought they were joking. I thought, coming from the other family where the children felt like I was taking away their mother, I thought they were joking, but they weren't. And I had a lovely time in San Francisco, and my adventure had just started. And I decided that I needed to go back to Sweden, pay my parents some money that I'd borrowed from them to travel, and off I was going to London. So I had a brief journey back to Sweden, worked for a few weeks, basically 3 jobs to pay back my parents the money that I owed them. And I also met the man of my dreams. He was there in Sweden, a really good looking boy that could barely speak Swedish. And I wondered if I should maybe not go to London. But I decided to actually do my dream and do what I wanted to do. And I went to London. I was stood there in a phone box trying to find, there was a time before mobile phones, for those of you who are a little bit younger. I was stood there with Loot magazine and looking for a house to live. I'd literally just arrived. I had a couple of friends in London, so I knew a couple of people. And I was stood there trying to get a house, and this guy knocks the phone box and says, "Are you looking for a house?" And I said, "Well, actually, I'm looking for a bed sit, but I don't really know the area very well." And he said, "Well, why don't you come and see my landlord? Because she's renting out a place in my house." And that was in Wandsworth Common, which I ended up living in this little bed sit, sharing bathroom with 9 people, but I loved it. It was mine. And it was absolutely amazing. Actually, there I met Jane, who I surprised yesterday in London, and she's still a good friend 30 years later. So thank you, Jane, for coming on this evening. No, life was an adventure. I loved every minute. It was a simple life. We worked 2 jobs to try and make ends meet. And we were having spaghetti most days, to be honest with you. Rye with cream cheese. I still can't eat that to this day. Now, if it was a good day, we had Parmesan cheese on the pasta. If it was a struggling day where we hadn't made a lot of tips, then there was just pasta and tomato sauce. So that was pretty much life. My friend had this habit. I lived there with my friend Kaiser, and we shared a tiny little bed sit at this point, working 2 jobs, and it was freezing, absolutely freezing. But we were on an adventure and we loved it. And she had this habit of putting £20 notes in her shoes, so we didn't have to bring a handbag. And this particular day, so on a Thursday, one of us go to the laundrette and the other one will get ready to go to the pub and clean the little bed sit, and off we went. But we had no money on this day. Anyway, I came back from the laundrette and she found £20. And no, sorry, we didn't go and get food. We went to the pub. But yes, this was amazing. And at 19, a year after I actually came to London, I got a dream job. I'd been working in this wine bar, and it was one of the first wine bars in London on the Fulham Road, for those of you who know London. It was very trendy and very exciting, and I'd been working there for a little while in the evenings. And the guy who was the manager actually recommended me to take over and become the manager. I'm not sure if my boss agreed completely, because I was a Swedish girl at 19, and could I really run a wine bar? But I proved him wrong. But also in those days, you only had 3 whites, 3 reds, and a rosé. So a wine bar wasn't really 40 wines, to get to know. It was quite simple. It was dry, sweet, or medium, and that was it. So this was also, this was the adventure. This was amazing. And I was still with my dream man. He turned up on the doorstep one day. Without me knowing, he turned up at the flat. Nobody knew he was coming. He came in his Italian suit, absolutely gorgeous, very suntanned, had just been traveling. And he asked if he could move in with us. I wasn't really sure, to be honest, how to take that. I was living my life. I loved my life with my friends. But literally a week later, I was head over heels in love with him. We decided to get a bigger house so we could move in, all of us together, and share the flat. And he was a bit vulnerable. He'd changed a bit, I thought. But he wasn't the confident guy that I met. But I absolutely was head over heels in love with this man who was the man of my dreams. Now, it was a young team at the wine bar. There was lots of parties. There was lots of things going on. And I decided that, you know what, I needed a little bit more than that. I needed a bit of a stability. I needed to maybe study and do something else with my life. So I decided to apply to the University of Arts, and I got in. I was very, very excited. And we, at that point, were living in our own flat as well. So I wasn't quite living the student life at that time. I was working full time still for the wine bar, as well as going to university, because London is not cheap, as you know, and as well as running a house. And when I finished, I actually finished with top grades. And that was pure stamina of not giving up. It wasn't easy. I'm not going to pretend it was easy. And anyone who's done any studying knows that it takes a lot of encouragement to go through with that, especially when you're working full time as well. But I got my dream role after this as a general manager for a restaurant, a top restaurant, a Michelin star restaurant. And we were building, and it was opening up in a few weeks. And I was given the role of running the team. And I was absolutely over the moon. It was my dream job. It was about 90 covers, and this was actually a wine bar that had moved on from the 3 reds and 3 whites and so on. And we had an amazing chef and a team of people from all different cultures. I have always loved my job in hospitality and events because of the cultures, because of the different people that you meet. And at this point in this wine bar, we had lots of professional people who had a job during the day and worked in the evening as well to make ends meet, or to maybe save up for a house and so on. And that's actually what I was doing as well. I was saving up for a house. That was the next goal with me and my dream man. He was still around, and we'd been together quite a few years at this point. And I want to talk a little bit about the team, because we did something quite incredible, which is a real sort of encouragement, I think, to many business owners, if you're a business owner on this, that you can create a change into something that may not have had changes before. So we decided to I had 4 managers, And we had a weekend off every month. Now, that is unheard of in the hospitality trade. And it was so lovely because we didn't have any staff turnover because nobody wanted to leave. Because it was just like a big family, because they had time off, they had time to be able to be with their loved ones and to be able to have a life outside as well as together. And it was a really incredible workforce that made a huge happiness, both in work and both at home. So that's something that I talk a lot about now in my life, about that encouragement for staff members and how you can change things and make things so people actually create a life-work balance. Now, we got the house in 1999 at 26 years old. We bought our first 3-bedroom house in London, and it needed a lot of work. This was my first building project. I've done 5. I should know what I'm doing, but I'm not sure if I do, but I'm quite good with a hammer and I'm quite good with sanding and a bit of dust. So yeah, if you want anything done in the garden, I actually built a shed for a friend of mine together with my husband and a little bit of help a couple of weekends ago. So if you ever need any handyman, then I'm your girl. So we were living in the house, and I was then working at this amazing restaurant. It was thriving. We had lots of national press. I was doing the building project, and I had an amazing boss. He was absolutely brilliant. He was my best friend as well. I knew him by this point for 12 years. And he came to me and he said that he had this amazing job opportunity. He was actually selling up and he wanted to include me and another chef to buy our first restaurant. And that was an opportunity of a lifetime. So we had a chat with my team, and we decided to look for a place, a gastropub. We were looking for a destination pub where we could move to. And that's when I moved to Wales. So 2006, we found our place in a little tiny village in the middle of nowhere where we knew nobody. It was called Llandeni, or Llandeni for those of you who are Welsh. But it was an amazing little village. It needed a lot of work again. So we had 1 week to turn this around, and people were coming in and showing up, and they could never work out. It was quite funny, actually. They could never work out because there were 3 men and myself. So they couldn't really work out who was married to me, because that's usually how it works. When you take over a pub, you're usually married to somebody, but I wasn't. But I was with somebody, and he was creating the kitchen with our French chef. And then I was doing all the sanding and painting, and we got it done and we opened up, and we had huge support from the village. And it was an incredible time. Actually, I actually got married 2 years ago in this little village. So I'm still good friends with all of them. Sadly, the pub is now shut down, but all the children that were only 14 when they started working with me, they absolutely loved it. And it was a real family feel to it. So I call it my Welsh family. And I'm still with touch with them now. And actually, many of them have now got children of their own, which makes me feel quite old. But enough of that one. So moving back, so I was sold up the restaurant after a while. And the reason being that things really turned sour. So my fantastic boss from the wine bar, he turned out to be a completely narcissistic man when you were working as a partnership with him. And I remember sitting down with him and his father. His father was a chartered accountant. They lived in Bermuda for a while, and there was a reason for that. But yes, it turned really narcissistic. And my friend chef, myself, and we sat down, and turned out that he kind of been just using and abusing us. Yes, I had 25% share, and he had 70 and the other guy had 5%. But I didn't realize then, as a business owner, if you don't have 50-50 or 51%, you really don't have anything to say. So that was a massive learning curve, and one that I would never do again. It was my life and my livelihood, and also my home. And I remember Sebastian, who was the French chef, he took off that night with his girlfriend because he realized that we'd been used and abused, and we didn't get paid. We lived, we lived for free, but there was lots of things that had been going on. I decided that I wanted to stay. This was my life, and I loved my job. I loved the team and everything else, but things became horrendous. So there was no option then to find a solicitor and try and get some of the money that I put in, because I left everything, and try and recover and take action of doing something else. There are always options. Even when you feel like that grated cheese and there's nothing left and that hard bit is the only thing you got, there's always options. Now I'm going to move forward a little bit. So we moved over to France during the time when I had invested my time into the business development of the place that we were having. My dream of my man, who I was still with, my ex, he'd invested in time in France in a house. So we went out there and we decided to finish off the project that we were doing out there. And things with that relationship changed dramatically, because he now had the power of being who he really was. And he left me in France with no phone, no heating, didn't know anyone. And it sounded like the dream place. When you spoke to people back in London, in my little village, they thought I'd gone over to France and was living the dream. In fact, it was very far from it. And having been with amazing team and amazing friends and amazing people and people every day, it actually was quite lonely. But it was a time when I realized, you know what, I am strong enough to go through that. And that is the action that I've taken all of my life. And I really hope that people will remember this from a few things in the talk that I've been doing today about the courage that you need to have on a daily basis, the encouragement that you can give others, and also the action. So even when life grates away with you and you have that real pain, there is also a relief and a belief that you can stick to on your own. So I'm going to fast forward of meeting Jamie, because I know I haven't got a long left. So I was on my own, because the relationship, finally I took action and left. And I met Jamie 2 years later, and he's a man with action. After 3 months of knowing him, he asked me if I would do Everest, and I said yes. Last year we embarked on Everest, but that's a whole different talk. But again, it shows you that you can take the action. I was not fit enough. I didn't think I was going to make it. But with teamwork and encouragement from other people, you can really do anything. You just need to reach out. So the journey has been full of excitement and challenges, and obviously COVID. We run a global network together, as well as a couple of other businesses as well. And it's certainly not a dance of roses every day. It's more like a Parmesan cheese. Once it's full and it's really full of flavor and it's exciting. And other days I still feel like that hard bit that's left and thinking, gosh, how am I going to cope today? But you know what? That's okay. It's okay to feel like that. It's okay to feel like that, but you got to take action. And like I said earlier, there are always options. So thank you so much for listening. I hope it's been a little bit of encouragement for some of you to maybe take an action that you've been wanting to do for a long time. And there will be a podcast following this next year. That's been one of my dreams when I turned 50 this year. So I'm looking for people who would want to share their story on the podcast. So thank you so much for listening.
Oh, Charlotte, that's amazing. And I kept thinking there's got to be a part 2. No, it's absolutely wonderful. And do hold your questions till all 4 speakers have spoken. Well, I think we've got 3 at the moment, but do hold your questions. And oh my goodness, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
so good to actually finally hear a bit of your story. Yes, and I can't wait to hear Jamie's next month. But yes, it's going to be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for pushing me out of my comfort zone.
Oh,
Carol, you've muted yourself somehow.
sorry. So, Charlotte, our next speaker is someone you know, Susie Mackie, who again, third time lucky. Every time Susie was due to speak on this platform, she went down ill. Finally, Susie, it's been such a blessing liaising with you, walking a bit of your journey with you, and the time has now come. So let me introduce you to Susie. Susie is a specialist in overcoming adversity and rising to challenge. She is an award-winning advocate for women and licensed mental toughness assessor, and delivers workshops and presentations to empower women to become authentically confident in who they are as well as what they do. It's never too late. Susie uses the lessons learned from her own traumatic experiences and the wisdom she has absorbed from some of the world's most powerful mentors to teach others how to develop mental toughness, strong boundaries, resilience, and all aspects of the self, from self-awareness to genuine self-love. And the moment has come, Susie. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Carol, so much. And thank you for your patience and your support, which has been absolutely just wonderful and so life-affirming. Charlotte, Parmesan cheese. And did you say 30 or 50th birthday coming up, darling? I am being privileged to know Charlotte for, gosh, a couple of years now. And your talk was amazing. You'd never know that you were out of your comfort zone. So thank you so much. And I agree with you about that, drawing on your inner strength for resilience, for positivity. And Carol, if I may now share my screen, being a photographer and being visual, I like to do a presentation, but these are my images that go along with what I'm saying. And as I say, please excuse me for the fact that I've got my notes down the left-hand side because technology slightly didn't play with me today. So shall I share my screen now?
Yes, you should be able to.
Share screen, share, and then I'll bring up my, there we are. Can you all see that slide with welcome? Yes, and so let's focus on the slide and not my notes at the end. So it is indeed incredibly good to be with you all, and thank you to Carol again. What I would say, mental toughness is a phrase that some people struggle with. It could be said to be rather masculine, a little bit hard. I'm so sorry, like that knobbly bit of cheese at the end at the back of the fridge, Charlotte. But actually, the essence of mental toughness is the mixture of resilience and positivity. The opposite of mental toughness is not mental weakness, it's mental sensitivity. And we're all a mixture of both. So when I talk about mental toughness, I'm not talking about wearing a steel helmet, closing off your heart and developing a rhinoceros hide. I'm talking about developing within you that essence that can see you, transform you and see you through anything, just like Charlotte had innately within her, I think, as a lot of sports people do. So we might not want to be a high-flying leader or conquer the world. But for me, the thing is, if we develop our mental toughness and our resilience, then anything in the life that challenges us, we can deal with so much more easily. So who am I to actually be talking about this? Well, I do know only too well the consequences of low self-worth. I grew up and spent most of my adult life actually until I was 50, and I'm 65 now. And I don't mind sharing my age because one of my mantras is it's never too late. When you grow up with such a low self-worth, it impacts everything you do. And Charlotte talked about options, and I talk about the choices. And I was brought up to be obedient. So you could walk all over me. I had incidents both at home and at school where manifested subconsciously that I was unworthy and inferior. And in fact, I spent a lot of my life justifying my place on this earth. I faced 3 abusive marriages. 2 of them were to army captains, and you'd think that they were supposed to be gentlemen, but they weren't. And I've had every kind of domestic abuse because no boundaries, no the strength to say no. So I don't see myself as a victim because I went into those marriages, I went into those situations, and actually now I'm where I am. Those situations has given my life purpose. They now have meaning. And if I hadn't gone through those, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So yeah, you can't walk all over me anymore. Mental toughness is a personality trait, which in part determines how we deal effectively with our stressors, our external stressors, irrespective of our circumstances. But at its core, mental toughness adopts the idea of contentment rather than happiness. And I rather like that because for me, it's a wonderful feeling to have inner peace. We can have all sorts of feelings, but just a calm sense of mental calm and inner peace is really lovely. And a definition of inner peace is having enough knowledge and understanding to keep oneself strong in the face of stress. So what does it mean? Well, as I said before, it's a measure of individual resilience and confidence, and I would say authentic, deep confidence in self that predicts your success in anything you choose to do in life. It's particularly, you'll see it in sport. At Wimbledon, they talked this year about mental toughness, mental resilience, both Claire Balding, who was hosting it, and some of the tennis players, because of course you have that gladiatorial element of the one-to-one. You'll see it in the Olympics, where they're lining up at the start of the race and they are absolutely tapping in. And it is that up here which makes the difference between winning and losing, when the ability and the talent is pretty much similar. So mental toughness is a significant factor in well-being, because when you are mentally tough, you don't find life's challenges so draining. And behavior, mentally tough people do tend to see opportunity in the challenge, where the more mentally sensitive tend to see threats. The mentally tough tend to achieve more because they strive to be the best they can be. And agility, they have the ability to respond to change and the pace of change. And in today's world, I think that's hugely important. So what's different about, I work with, as a partner with AQR International, and I came across this because since 2009, 2008, actually something gave me huge confidence that I could actually do something and do it well. And I, after 4 years of studying, I achieved a first-class honours degree in photography, and I fell in love with the image and working with people. And so I started to do a lot of weddings, business portraits, business showcasing. And I did say to one of my tutors, do you think I'm selling myself out by being a wedding photographer? And she said, not at all, because you're so good with people. And that's really where, as you can imagine, sometimes, Charlotte, you were a bride not very long ago, that it's a really big day when you are, as the bride, the center of attention. And so I got a reputation for helping actually the grooms as well as the brides feel really confident, because I do pre-wedding shoots. And then I started to do bridal boudoir, which of course is a completely different element. And I started to do boudoir photography as an empowerment experience, really tapping in or enabling that client to tap into her sense of inner beauty from within. Because as we know, the external isn't important. It's how we feel about ourselves that really matters and takes us forward or not. So I was doing all of this photography, and I got a reputation for female empowerment. I published my 2 books. Here we are, 50 amazing stories with my portraiture, my stories in the first, of women's triumph over real adversity. Some of them are very happy, harrowing, but the important thing is there is always a positive and happy ending. And so they're kind of like, the stories are like signposts to show people that they're not alone, or women that they're not alone, and that they can make it through. And then I decided that people say you should be a coach or a counselor, Susie. And I thought, well, I don't have a qualification. I'm a photographer. And I didn't feel comfortable going into that without a qualification. And a friend of mine who's a leading business executive leadership coach was doing this mental toughness, and she was working with AQR. And I said, I want to do that. So she said, Susie, you'd be great at that. So I embarked on the training just shortly after my mother died. And that's another story. My father had died in 2020. Mummy died in March 21. And 2 months after that, I fell ill with COVID and was in hospital on oxygen for 8 days and ended up with long COVID. So it was quite a while that I actually managed to finish the mental toughness training. And it's really taken until now for me to, well, embrace it fully. I am so fascinated by anything to do with people, just like you, Charlotte. I just love that. So, as I said before, mental toughness, while it's not a pretty phrase, is the mixture of resilience and positivity. And if you can, as it says on the screen there, the ability to recover from adversity. And I think if you have a natural optimism, I've always had, it's sink or swim, and I am so not going to sink. I am always going to do everything I can to swim. And that element of determination and resilience, I seem to have become a role model, as Carol said, for overcoming adversity and rising to challenge. So having said this about mental toughness, it's not, there's nothing wrong with being mentally sensitive. And it is, we're both all a mixture of both. The really important thing, and that's where the assessments come in, is self-awareness. When we know ourselves around our responses to stressors, we can improve on the elements where we perhaps want to develop it, because staying mentally sensitive, especially if you are in a leadership role or perhaps sport. I don't know, in Wimbledon, I was fascinated to hear Ange Jabeur talking about, she has had a mental strength coach for 8 years. But actually, having said that, in the final, she just wasn't on it. And that's normal because we are human beings. I'm resilient, but my goodness me, over the last few years, I have wept oceans being a Pisces because I'm human and I have feelings. So as I say, it's not about having a rhinoceros skin. The other thing is with leadership in corporations, which was where I'm going at the age of 65, having never been there before, is that so many female leaders are putting a brave face on it, which is creating mental sensitivity, which creates imposter syndrome and stress, and they can't go on like that. So this is where I'm absolutely passionate about this. So absolutely, can you develop your mental toughness? And actually, when I do my all-day workshops, the whole of the first half is about the self. everything to do with self, because until we really tap into this, we can't then pile on top of that the mental toughness training, or actually it's not training, it's I facilitate the learning of it. Yeah, reflection is absolutely crucial. So I did mention before that when I was growing up, I was expected to be obedient both at home and at school. So Charlotte talked about options. There's always an option. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know that choice was something that was available to me. And I did as I was told. I was a nurturing person, and I had all of that kind of knocked out of me. But we all do have a choice. Before we do anything, we must choose. So thank goodness from 2013, I've done all the work. Well, I say all the work. I believe in learning for life. And so consciously choosing, but not only consciously choosing for you what's the best action and option for you to take and embrace, it's actually, will this choice bring the best outcome to me and to those who are affected by this choice? Now, we can say that's really important for your family, for your loved ones, and as a leader in your business. You need to really think about that. And in my workshop, I talk about servant leadership, but that's another story. It does all begin with ourselves. Now, many of you may have heard of Tony Robbins, fantastic American guru. And I love this. The strongest force in the universe is a human being living consistently with his or her identity. And that's where, for me, and my passion is that not having a strong identity, not being authentically confident, the authentic confidence is so important for us to live our best life. So when we step into and then being able to stay in our power and not let anybody take that away from us, that is magical. That is fantastic. So these are some of my slides from my full day's workshop. And so I've chosen a couple because I do actually love this quote from Dolly Parton: find out who you are and do it on purpose. Oh, and actually at the end of my story in the book, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. How true is that? And what a wise saying. Because actually we are all who we are. We're born with nature, we're born with some personality, but we can create the who and the life that we want to be. Apparently, according to Sean Anker of the Happiness Advantage, 90% of our long-term happiness is predicted not by the external world, but the way our brain processes it. And actually, there's a fantastic book by Oprah Winfrey and a professor called What Happened to You, a very powerful book, quite harrowing in some respects, but they talk about the fact that we are born with 86 or so billion neural pathways and neurons, and so many of those we can change. We can, by our thought processes, by our self-talk. So our perspective and our perception impacts feelings and behavior. The meaning we attach to a situation will change how we feel and therefore how we respond or act to it. And emotional resilience, which is an element of mental toughness, is part of what really does make the difference. This lady, I was photographing a charity polo match a few years ago. Actually, it was in aid of Hospitality Action, which some of you may have heard of, because hospitality is not easy. Both my daughters have been in it for a while. Jolly hard work, and you've got to keep smiling, haven't you, Charlotte, when you really don't feel like it. So this lady was there. She was actually is a rugby player's partner, and she worked a lot with the charity. And I decided, I was there to photograph it, but they were doing this auction, and I decided that I wanted to give a boudoir shoot to the auction. And the auctioneer said, right, Susie, you come here and you can tell people about it. So he handed me the microphone, and Stephanie bid for it. And I love this picture of her because I feel she's got that authentic confidence. She's got that look, she's got that strength. And by the way, for me, my boudoir, which is really body confidence, self-image, empowerment photography, is not about nudity or the amount of flesh you show. Yes, you can choose to do that. But as you can see here, Stephanie is wearing a fabulous leather jacket. I also believe that when you know who you are and your value in yourself and in this world and to others, when you know it, that's also life-changing. And I do say to my clients that I'm here to believe in you until you can believe in yourself, because I've been there. And I won't tell you that if I can do it, you can do it, because actually that can put real pressure on somebody. No, I can't, because they may not be feeling that at the moment. So I'm here to believe that that they can do it whilst they get there. Another lovely thing that I think is great is studies show, and I think this was actually a Russian study, that mental toughness profiles for males and females are virtually the same in the intellectual element, and that there's no justification for discriminating against women on the way they approach events mentally when they are going for a leadership post. So absolutely no justification at all. We are not the weaker sex. And actually, I think when somebody is going for a position, a promotion or a job, they don't need to think or say to the interviewers, why choose a woman? It's why choose me? Why choose me and what I know I can offer? Yes, and there's a lot that Oprah says on self-esteem, and a couple of years before COVID, she did actually say that she believed that self-esteem, or lack of, was the most the biggest problem that the world was facing. Then I think we had COVID, so maybe things change, but it doesn't change that fact that self-esteem is lacking in so many people. We need to work together to change that, because confidence isn't a given and it's not one single entity. And yes, as we've talked about, external program, internal program, and how we feel about ourselves. Now, this lovely woman who looks, again, very confident through a boudoir shoot, she was married to a surgeon, and he used to beat her black and blue. He used to tell her she was hopeless in bed and fat and ugly. She was a nurse, that's how she met him. It took her a year to plan to get away from him. And a few years later, she met me and she decided to treat herself for her 50th birthday to a shoot. And this is one of the wonderful images from that. Have I got enough time to carry on for just a few more slides, Carol?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just a few. So one of the things that I feel is most powerful, that will see us through our challenges, is giving up our attachment to the result. I don't do one single God. I thank the universe. I'm grateful to the universe. I work with the universe, and Deepak Chopra is my hero. And so actually tomorrow morning at 11:30, I will be on a Teams online meeting with the Chief Master at probate court at the High Court of Justice in London, where we had to appear on the 7th of September. And tomorrow, the judge will be delivering her verdict. And now that verdict will determine whether I end up with anything from our parents' estate, because unfortunately the other side has decimated the whole thing. It's a long story, or whether I end up in debt to the estate, whereas if it had been normal, we would have both ended up with over 150,000. So that's been a long process over the last 3 years. However, I can't control the outcome. I can trust in justice and fairness. So that's what I'm doing, whilst I let go of the outcome, because keeping hold of it and wishing and hoping and thinking, oh, that won't do me any good at all. And I'm creating my own life anyway. Boundaries. Oh my God, I love boundaries, because I grew up without any. As I said before, no boundaries, just hopeless, attracted all the wrong men. And yeah, I let people walk all over me. and I had to learn to start building them. This quote here is from a novel called Beloved, and it's about the slaves. And I just love that quote. I don't know why. I hope you find it as strong as I do. I don't, she said, I have my own. And Brené Brown, another one of absolute heroes, tells us when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. Yeah, isn't that the case? And this is why we actually sometimes attack those people, which is for who they are, which is more hurtful than addressing a behavioral choice. It's like when we're parents, hopefully we are taught not to tell our child, you're very naughty, but rather say, that was a naughty thing you just did, and separate the action from the person. So when you have an issue, one tip is to say, thank you for sharing that, when somebody says something that really is not kind or helpful, and then pause and then say, this has made me feel, rather than you have made me feel. But using the word feel, they can't argue with how you're feeling. And so this has made me feel is a much more powerful way of addressing something. I'll skip self-care as a huge element. And I'll just say the quote from Marcus Aurelius. So even back then, gosh, such wisdom. You have power over your mind, not over outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And again, this is a fabulous quote. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Well, clearly not my laptop with this presentation. However, it's still a great quote. Sport, talking about your strength here. And we are all individual and unique. And I want to enable and encourage women to wear that crown of uniqueness proudly. It might slip, but just straighten it up, put it back on firmly, and keep going. Control distraction is a really useful element when you just can't get away from that which is bugging you, or if you're in a bit of a fug or a phase. You can take time out with purpose. It lets you have a feeling of perspective. And actually, one thing about your feelings that I was told by a mentor is when you are overwhelmed by a feeling, sit for a while, breathe. And my eldest daughter is a breathwork facilitator and a fantastic healer, having had a hell of a life herself. And so breathing is hugely important, and it's actually used by Navy SEALs for focus and concentration, which I think I've put here. Yes, and anxiety control as well. If you want to find out more about breathwork, actually in my workshop, all the way through there are empowerment actions. And when I delivered to the NHS, I created a PDF with all the or many of the empowerment actions, which I'm very happy to share through Carol, if you would like to have those. Now, this is my resting Buddha. Oh, he's here behind me. Gratitude. This is so important. It's seen me through so much, even through, because you know what, as Western women or women who are privileged to have running water, a flushing loo, I mean, my goodness, we are blessed. Just little things that make our lives so comfortable and so much easier. But the thing about gratitude, Sharon Lowe, she's author of The Mind Makeover, and you can see a video of her speaking on my YouTube channel, because she said she would walk to the launch of my second book just to speak there, which was just so wonderful. Very powerful character. And she says, you must mean it and feel it. Never fake gratitude. Connect to what you are grateful for. Be mindful and in that moment, because this is one of the most powerful energizers, gratitude. So there we have it. We can all learn. I think learning is for life. We can then choose to implement what we learn. And if we do, we will grow. And this, I'll finish this with this quote: no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. said Eleanor Roosevelt. Again, wisdom from a while ago. And you are more than enough. I've got some free empowerment practices, as I said, and perhaps through Carol, I will offer the assessment for your mental toughness. I'm going to take 50% off it, so I don't want to be salesy, but you know, it's there for you if you wish to find out more. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Carol, and everybody for listening.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. Oh, amazing. Amazing. And did you say tomorrow or Tuesday?
Tomorrow.
Court
Tomorrow
case.
at 11 UK time. So
11:30. Let me make a note.
Positive vibes, because it's, you know, I have let go of the outcome, but I do hope that justice prevails, because it's
Absolutely.
I'm writing a book on the whole experience, because this is not uncommon. This is quite extreme, but it's apparently, according to Inheritance Wars on TV, this is not uncommon, and the law needs some attention, and I want to help people avoid the emotional trauma and the legal pitfalls and the expense of it all by writing a book, and I will do that early next year.
It could have crippled someone if they didn't have your mindset, your attitude.
It could do, because it's been the emotional, it's my only sibling, you know, she just hates me. So long story, I was born on her second birthday and all sorts of things, and just but I nearly broke the Wednesday after the court case on the 7th of September. I represented myself at the High Court of Justice in person. Tomorrow's on, and yeah, it could do. But you know, the thing is, again, this is not uncommon. We need to do something about it. I'm not very good at just going through that and saying, oh, well, that was hell, and then I'll move on to the next. I want to help people, and I know I can. So thank you, Carol.
All righty. Okay. So it gives me again great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is Karen Yankovic. And I'm so looking forward to hearing you speak, Karen. So Karen, who is she? CEO of Up Level Media, Karen offers results-oriented and expert conversational marketing strategies that position clients to bring in instant results. Her background includes over 20 years in the fields of information technology, marketing, and customer relationships, making social media her ideal niche. Karen offers coaching and consulting for entrepreneurs, guiding them to creating wealth by combining smart business practices with simple, proven systems that develop and maintain strong customer relationships. Her unique speciality blends her get it done attitude with a passion for soulful living in her personal services and online workshops. Okay, over to you, Karen. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me here. Susie basically just did my presentation. So so there's going to be a lot of synergy here. I loved so much of what you said. Just take the energy of what Susie just said and bring it into this session. And I'm going to approach it a little differently, but I think that I love so much of what you talked about. And I'm looking forward to kind of adding to what you did. And for sure, I am also sending you good vibes for tomorrow. I have been in similar situations in my life, and also representing myself. And there's something to be said for having confidence, which is a lot of what you teach, right? And a lot of what I teach. So as Carol was reading my bio, I was thinking, boy, does that need to be updated? Because first of all, that 20 years is probably now 30 years. But in addition to that, really the work that I do focuses on helping women have more impact, more influence, and more income. And I just want there to be more wealthy women in the world. And wealth comes to us in many different ways, right? It's not only just about money, but money helps, right? Women with money can change the world. We can donate money. We can vote with our money. We can show up in court prepared if we've got the money to support us with that, right? Like there's been times in my life where money definitely would have made a difference in the outcome of a situation, right? And I just don't want to ever be there again. And I want to help more women in that situation because, So the approach that I take is so similar to what Susie talks about, but I'm going to focus it on, we're going to focus this on like an entrepreneurial mindset, but but it doesn't, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, right? If you have a paycheck, that's cool too. The same things I talk about here are going to work for whether you have a paycheck or whether you're an entrepreneur. And you know what I find, the reason that I talk, if you Google me, if you throw my name into a Google search, what you're going to see is a lot of stuff about LinkedIn. And people, in fact, somebody just said to me yesterday, somebody interviewed me for a podcast yesterday, and was the second time she interviewed me. And she said to me, you know, after the first time I interviewed you, which was a few years ago, she goes, I was thinking like, gosh, what is she going to do if LinkedIn goes away? Like her whole business goes away. And I thought, you miss the whole point, because LinkedIn is just the tool. And the reason that I focus so much on LinkedIn and PR for women is because it helps us create the brand that we want to portray of ourselves, that we want to portray to the world, right? So my background is in information technology. I'm a little bit older than social media. And because I was in information technology for so many years, I was often the only woman in the room, right? We're talking about data networks and servers and, you know, voice communications. And, you know, I was in rooms with a lot of guys with tool belts, right? So what I needed to do was show up confidently. And I didn't realize when I wore this white shirt, I don't have a green screen behind me, nor am I using it. It is just the light and all the things. So I'm disappearing into the walls as the sun sets here. But anyway, I've just looked over like, oh, that's interesting. You're disappearing. Anyway, because I was the only woman in the room often, I had to portray confidence, because I would have just gotten my lunch eaten. If I wanted anybody to hear what I had to say, I had to kind of show up in that confident way, right? So what I didn't realize was the lessons that was teaching me, right? So all those years that I was like, and I remember specifically being in a room, I happened to have on these really cool, gorgeous pink chino pants and these beautiful pastel pumps that were all different colors. They were awesome. And I was in a room full of guys and tool belts on and servers and things like that. And most of them didn't know me. And I just kind of like kept my mouth shut. And then I opened my mouth and I just kind of like went right in for the kill with the information that I had to share. And I kind of enjoyed that little event because I knew that they were underestimating me, because that's what happened in the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, right? So that skill, that self-taught skill, that self-survival skill, right? When I started, eventually I started to, the world changed in the technology industry that I was in, and I just didn't really want to do it anymore. Most of what I did was focused on sales and marketing, right? I was always involved in like the design of these networks and, what was right for the customers. So as I don't need to get into all the details of my journey, but as I shifted my world to online marketing, I was often like, and I was helping people with online marketing in general, because I've always loved sales. And I'm like, well, these tools are cool, like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I was doing all the things. I created an agency and was helping businesses use these tools to get their message out there. But I was driving everybody back to LinkedIn, because even back then, when those tools worked probably better than they work today, I knew that what worked best was timeless, and that is the relationships. Who are the people that you need to talk to, right? So I was driving people to LinkedIn because I was like, well, people want to know more about you. Like, I want you, before you start putting yourself out there on Twitter and Instagram and all these other places, you need to first take control of your own personal brand, right? Because that did not change, even when all these new tools came out. So eventually I started getting asked to speak about this on LinkedIn. And I also learned, as I got smarter at digital marketing, I learned the importance of niching my own brand and my own business. And I kind of focused, like, a lot of shiny objects along the way, as we all tend to do. But I eventually started to focus my entire business on LinkedIn and PR, and specifically for women, because I recognized early on that, when I ask people, if I asked 100 people, where did your biggest opportunities come from, right? Whether it was a job or a client or whatever, 99.5 of them would say, well, referral, somebody gave my name to somebody else, right? But nobody's spending 99.5% of their marketing time or dollars or energy on LinkedIn, which is the biggest referral platform on the planet, right? They were spending a lot of time and money on all these other platforms, which there's a lot of value to doing that. I'm not saying that you need to spend all your money on LinkedIn, but give it what it deserves, because that's where the biggest opportunities happen. You know what? I went to a networking meeting recently. I recently moved back. I live in New Jersey in the US, and I recently moved back to an area that I lived in before. And I went to a networking meeting at a business organization that I was a part of, and it was a women's organization. And I knew some of the women in the room, but there was like 15 women, 20 women in the room maybe. And they went around the room for 2 hours or an hour, whatever, and asked everybody what they did and what would be a great referral for them. Every single solitary woman, like if what they sold was a pen, they said, well, I'd love to get somebody to buy a pen from me. Right. And when it got to me, and I really was doing my best to hold myself back, because I could have completely taken over that conversation. And I knew that it wasn't the right time. But I basically said, really what I want to do, what I do is I want to every one of you, the next time I walk into this room, to when they ask what a good referral is for you, to say, I sell these great pens. Who do you know that needs 1,000 of them? Right? Like women lean into the lowest ticket opportunities where we don't think big enough, right? Every single woman said, I want a coaching client, every single one. And it's not that I want you to not sell pens or not do whatever it is you do. I just want you to, I like to call it like flip the funnel, right? What is the highest end things that you can do? If you're looking for a job, what are the biggest opportunities out there? If you're, take what you do and just package it so that it's brilliant, and you're giving people just massively over delivering for people, and then charge whatever you need to charge to do that, and then put all your focus there, right? But here's the thing, in order to do that, you need to be showing up as worthy of people's time and worthy of people's money. So to tie this all together, basically what I did was I said, okay, how can I help these people? And, I have a podcast called Good Girls Get Rich, which everyone should be listening to. I love my podcast, and I love the conversations I get to have on them. And my program that I have a program that teaches women these strategies, and that's called She's Linked Up. And I will say though, that I also work with people privately, and about half of my private clients are men. I don't work with women because I don't want to work with men. I want women to feel more included. I feel like they feel, I'm not excluding men, right? I want women to feel more included in this, because women need to think bigger. They need to understand that if your biggest opportunities come from things like referrals, then let's get more brilliant people in our network, right? And a lot of this though is, and this is where it ties into a lot of what Susie's talking about, a lot of this is all in here. It's all in here. It's not, the opportunities are there for us, right? But we just think too small. And if I talk to women, I'll hear them say things like, well, like almost like it's a New Year's resolution. This is going to be the year I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to have my first 6-figure or multi-6-figure or 7-figure year. So their ambitions are up here, but their energy is here. And we need to align them. We need to align them. We need to start feeling like and acting like and talking like that 6-figure and 7-figure business owner. And that's in here, right? We need to be building relationships with the smartest people that we know. We hear things like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And we know all these things, right? But we don't do all these things. So whatever it is that your next chapter is, and I'm finding at this moment in history, many women are in some kind of transition. Many women pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, do not want to go back to what they were doing before. Most of the women I work with are over 50, or at least over 40. And most of those women are like, yeah, this is not it. This isn't cut it for me anymore. Sometimes that transition is just like, it's time for me to make more money. I spoke to somebody the other day, and when our kids are little and we want to be there for them and we want to be at their soccer games and things like that, it's not that we don't have the time, because we can always find it, but it's the mental capacity, right? Like at some point we need to make room in our brain. But when that's done, right? Like my kids are married, I've got grandkids now, and of course I want to spend time with them. But this right here, where a lot of times people were like, okay, well, Karen's 62 years old, it's over. No. This is my wealth building opportunity. This is the time that I can focus on building wealth. I'm an entrepreneur. I do not have a pension. Do you know what I mean? I live in the US. I don't even have health benefits that are decent, right? Like my health benefits cost $1 million a month, right? This is the time. And so many, we need to know that. And then we need to create a plan. And the plan needs to start with, first of all, by the way, Carol, I did not pay attention to what time I started. Can you tell me what time I have to go to here so I make sure I time this right?
You are good. You've got another 10 minutes if you want it.
Perfect. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is understand that you need to take control of your own brand. And this is why I love LinkedIn so much, because I feel like LinkedIn is the one place on the internet that we can tell the world what we want them to know about us. If you we don't buy a paperclip without searching for reviews. So if anybody's going to buy your highest ticket things or invest in you at a high level, they're going to search for what they can find out about you. LinkedIn is a place where you can show what you want them to know about you, right? And, I can tell you that a couple of years ago, I just kind of threw in the towel and said, that's it, I'm done. Anybody that works with me, we're going to write your profile for them, because it's hard to write your own LinkedIn profile. It's hard to see yourself the way you want the world to see you, right? So while I do have options for people to work, to get some help with that, at the end of the day, I want to just let somebody do it for you so that you can show up looking like your best self, because it is often your first impression for these big opportunities. And a part of the brand is not just your profile and what they see, right? Because a lot of times I hear people talk about their LinkedIn profile and they say, well, it's just my online resume. Your resume is all about who you used to be. Your LinkedIn profile should be positioning you for the person you're becoming. I don't want you to BS it. I don't want you to put fake stuff on there, but I want you to kind of dress for the job you want, right? Like start to show up. Again, align your ambitions with your energy, right? Start to create the energy, make the energy of your profile aligned with the $1 million business owner you want to be, right? And then it comes time to say, okay, now that I've got this great profile, how do I build my network? Because in the time that we've been on this call, the only platform that I get notifications on my phone or my watch are on LinkedIn, is on LinkedIn. And just before I went live, I just happened to just check my phone, and I got at least three new messages on LinkedIn from people that pitched me. They connected with me 5 minutes ago, and they pitched me after that. Like some of them connected with me this week and immediately sent me a pitch. If that's what you think LinkedIn is all about, you are leaving money on the table, because I know that that's happening to all of us. It's not, but we don't have to be that way, right? What I want you to do is think about in a very micro-targeted way, not in a, I need to make 100 connections this week. But if I said to you, who are 5 people you would like to have on your calendar next week? Right? And maybe I'd say, maybe to make it easier, because I want to batch this to make your life easier. Who are 25 people you'd like to have on your calendar before the end of the year? And connect with maybe 5 people a week with the intent, but do it intentionally. There's an entire Zoom room full of beautiful women right here, right? So it doesn't have to be cold outreach to people. You can say, hey, I saw you were an attendee, or I heard you speak at, what did you think about this? Like, that's a warm way of building this. I'm not saying you're going to reach out to these people because you want to pitch them. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, that is the last thing I want you to do. I want you to build genuine relationships. And when I talk about building genuine relationships, and we're just going to continue to use LinkedIn as the example, there's 3 categories of relationships I'd like you to build. And of course, we don't want to overlook who might be interested in hiring you, whether it's for a job or whether you're an entrepreneur or wants to buy your stuff, right? But that is the category that I want you to spend the least amount of effort on. The other 2 categories are where the big opportunities are on LinkedIn. And the other 2 categories is what makes women wealthy. The second category is, and this is a conversation you can have with everyone in this Zoom room. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. Who do you know? Right? Just a collaboration conversation. We met on this. I heard this. I heard that, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to have a conversation with you because, we're both interested in women's empowerment. We were on that session. What can we do? Who do you know? Right? Who do you know that maybe that this is what I do? Right? And then of course you want to do the same thing for them. You want to have a conversation about how can we collaborate? What opportunities are there out there? I can tell you that did that earlier, like just that you just never know where these conversations are going to lead to when you have these conversations. You know, I reached out to a friend of mine who I do have conversations with frequently, but she'd never been on my podcast. And I was looking at my podcast schedule earlier today, and I just reached out to her and I'm like, hey, Bridget, I'm looking for a guest the end of November. Do you want to do an interview? And she's like, yes. Oh my God. And as a matter of fact, my guest from my Facebook group just dropped out this morning. Are you free this afternoon? Blah, 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 whatever time. I'm like, yes, I am. Right. And it's just a matter of reaching out, and I didn't reach out to her to say, put me in your group. She didn't reach out to me to say, put me on your show. Right. We just had a conversation. I reached out to her because I needed somebody on my show. Right. Well, you don't know where these conversations are going to go. So that second category, that here's that collaboration opportunity. And by the way, if you're in networking groups, or even if they're Facebook groups, right, you don't want to connect with everybody in that group. Go through it. Even if you think they might be a great, perfect, ideal client for you, the outreach is the same. The outreach is, here's what I do. It looks like you're interested in something similar. I wonder if there's a way we can support each other. And maybe the way you support them is you introduce them and invite them to your program, right? But you might have that conversation and realize they're absolutely not a fit for whatever it is you do, right? So that second category, actually having conversations, talk on the actual phone. I'm talking about like, or on Zoom, right? And you can do this times a couple a week. The third category, and this is the piece that so many women, and I don't care who you are or what you do or what your goals are, this can change your life. This third category are journalists. Who are the journalists that talk and write about what you do? And I'm not talking about pitching them. I'm talking about if you are involved in real estate, connect with the people that write about real estate where you live. And don't just, and connect with them. Now, the beautiful thing about connecting with journalists is they're prolific, right? Podcast hosts, newspaper writers, blog writers, whatever it is, they write things continually. So find something that you resonate with, share it with your network. It's not just about sharing the article, but don't forget the step to actually connect with the writer or the journalist that wrote that, or the podcast host. I have a podcast, I'm on episode like 258, I think I recorded today. I would love to tell you that I wake up every morning and there's 10 people that tag me and post and said, I just listened to Karen's podcast, episode 12, and it was great. Like, it doesn't happen as often as you think. So people will remember you if you do this, if you share their article and tell in that article, oh my gosh, this was awesome. She talked about A, B, and C. And you know what? I never thought about B, but here's what I think about C. Like, add your point of view, tag the journalist, say, thank you so much for sharing this. And then connect with the journalist on LinkedIn. Remember, you've already done the work to have a beautiful profile. So the journalist is now already sees you as credible, right? So now this is how you can get interviews on podcasts, quoted in newspapers and magazines. And this is how, if you are in corporate, this is how you dissolve glass ceilings. Okay, because if people are overlooking you for opportunities, you're just gonna be able to go somewhere else because you're the one quoted in the newspaper and the magazine all the time. Right? So you can find these opportunities no matter what you do. Journalists need us. There is no end of opportunities for us, right? In this world. And especially if you're in some kind of transition. Let's just say you're a 50-year-old woman and you've been in corporate and you're kind of, now it's time to go out on your own. And you're going to be a consultant for the first time in your life. I don't know about you guys, but the imposter syndrome that I see out there in the world is overwhelming. So here's a 50-year-old woman with probably 30 years of brilliance and expertise, right? Second guessing herself as a consultant because she doesn't have the actual experience as with the title consultant, right? So here's what you do. Here's what happens now. So now they're a little bit nervous about, and legitimately, if I'm looking to hire somebody at $10,000 or $20,000 or pounds or whatever, I'm going to be asking for references, right? And you don't necessarily have any references, right? Because you just started doing this. But what you could do if you are quoted in the newspapers and the magazines and interviewed on podcasts, you may not even, or you got a referral from somebody in your network, they might skip the whole reference part because they see you as credible. Okay, so that's building credibility while you're building up your experience and your testimonials and all those things. And you can go right in at that high level. You don't have to start at $2 and then the next client make it $22 and the next client make it $52. You can start at 5,000 or 10,000 for the and looking for those biggest opportunities and incorporating this PR piece into your bag of tricks. Now, I know this might all sound overwhelming, but remember that I said to you, I want you to do this times 5 people a week, right? This is going to take you a half hour or an hour twice a week, right? Do the work on the profile first, and then just start to do research on who the people are you want to get on your calendar. Take a couple hours and make a list of 50, and then include some journalists in there, include some podcast hosts in there, include the kinds of people who, you know, who might be able to use you, might be able to quote you or interview you in whatever they do. And then just reach out to 5 of them a week, right? And it doesn't, and do that consistently. It is not about, it's not about overworking or tons of it or putting in 1 million hours. It's about being consistent. If you consistently reach out, that's why I like you to batch this, by the way, so that you don't have to like do the research every week. You can do the research once, and then every week reach out to 5 or 10 people with the intention of having an actual meeting with every single one of them. You're not looking to just add random people to your network, right? You're looking to actually build true relationships. Everything is going to change in your life and your business. And it can be that simple, right? It can be that simple. And we have, you know, we just think that we need to post on social media 50 million times a day, and we need to dance on TikTok and do all these things. At the end of the day, maybe that brings business in, and maybe you want to do that, but how about we make some money first so we can pay people to do those things, right? And, you know, look for those bigger opportunities first, and then you can focus on, you know, paying people to do some of these other things. So I am here for anybody that, I mean, it's hard to miss me. I'm at Karen Yankovich across all social media. I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love a chance to chat with anybody here that just wants to have a chat or wants to know what it looks like to get some help with any of this stuff. And I would love for you to check out my podcast, Good Girls Get Rich. We've got tons and tons of resources on that, and it's my gift to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Put your link in the chat.
I will.
Please. If it isn't already.
Yeah.
I'm sure others would like to follow up with you. Awesome. Beautiful.
Whoops. Let me change this to everyone. Okay, I'll add my links.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. And thank you for those amazing tips. And I know it goes deeper. This is just the beginning. So I hope we've made lots of notes.
Lots of notes, and your energy, Karen, is just fabulous. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So sadly, we don't have Sadie Bess. I pray she's okay and nothing has happened to her, and that she is in good health. But there's a reason why she's not here, because we only messaged each other about 3 or 4 hours ago. So yes. So now, as we've heard from Karen, our final speaker for the evening or afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from, I would like to open up the floor for Q&A. And then once the Q&A segment has finished, I will hand over to Ritu to add some closing words. So please don't be shy. We've had a lot of good food this evening, so go for it. Either put your virtual hand up or, okay, Susie, thank you.
Charlotte, thank you, Carol. I have a question for you. On what did you draw from within, or did you you just did, you didn't know it, that really kept you going through those times? Was it a conscious thing? How did you draw on that ability to keep going again and again?
Determination. Determination, and also my nan told me that anything you can do if you work hard. and she's a true inspiration to me. And she never actually left the county where I was born. She never traveled, which is why I wanted to travel the world.
Yeah.
And she never, you know, had her own business or anything like that, but she put that mentality in that you can do anything that you put your mind to.
Yeah.
And it's very true. And I mean, I know, knowing you, that you certainly do that to everything that you do as well. But it wasn't actually until I read a blog last year that I realized that all these people had been narcissistic, and I thought it was my fault. I thought that I was, you know, something wrong with me because I attracted these people. And then I've learned through research and self-development that actually they often attracted to you because you give them the support and things that they thrive on.
Yeah.
So it's not your fault.
No, it was interesting when I was all these unsuitable boyfriends. I asked my best friend's husband, why do I pick all of these people, these men? And he said, Susie, you don't pick them, they pick you. So that's, you give out this vibration. So it's about, yeah. So thank you. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go for it, Karen. Sorry, I didn't realize I was still on mute.
Right. Hi. I just want to say thank you to all three of you. I sat resonating so much with a lot of what I said tonight. And I felt it very empowering. I do have a question for Karen. You talk a lot about the profile, okay, on LinkedIn, because I've tried to put all my eggs in one basket on LinkedIn. I was trying to do all three and finding that it was just impossible. And LinkedIn is where I've built my base, really, and I've done the relationship, maybe not to the depth you talk about. So maybe I've got a lot of work to do. But the profile, and you mentioned about the resume, and only put on there what is about, you know, describing what you're doing today and the person that you're becoming. Because I'm very similar to the other two ladies, because I work around resilience and adversity because of my life story and the work that I've done. And so the work that I've done is important. I spent a lot of time working in the criminal justice system with both victims and perpetrators. And so a lot of the stuff that I have done is relevant. I feel it's relevant to my profile. But I do wonder if, because I talk about the criminal justice system, whether that then, because I'm talking about aspiring leaders, is not doing me any favors. What would you say on that?
So I didn't exactly say only put what's future. I said position yourself for the person you're becoming. You definitely want to include all of the things that you've done in the past, but you want to do it in a way that builds the story of up to who you are today. For example, like a bunch of years ago, I owned a company and I did everything. I mean, I did everything. I hired people, I fired people, I bought office furniture, I took the garbage out. Like, I did everything. If what I was doing today was human resources related, I would talk about negotiating contracts for health benefits, but it's not. So I don't even talk about that. I just talk about the sales and marketing things that I did in that role, right? So you want to kind of take what you did in those previous experiences and build it up to where you are today. But one thing you said in the beginning, and I want to make sure that I'm on the right track with it. You said you've got, you know, a few different baskets of eggs, right? The number one question I get asked is, I am an accountant by day and a Reiki master by night. How do I incorporate all of that into my LinkedIn profile, right? And I think you can, because what you need to remember is your profile is about you, not about your business, not about your products and services. It's a brand of you. So all of that just makes you interesting. So what you do want to do is, if you have, from a strategy perspective, if you and I were sitting on a strategy call, I would say to you, and I actually have visuals for this because it's so important, like, what's the target? whoops, where's my camera? What's the target, right? Like, what's your target? Tell me what you want. Do you want a $10,000 client? Do you want, like, we need to first get clear on what your goal is, because you can't, you know, like what they say, you can't chase and catch 3 rabbits, you know, going in different directions. So you do want to think about, at this moment in time, what is the most valuable thing to you? And then you want to kind of find a thread that ties the things together, right? That if you're doing multiple things right now, but it's okay to be, we're all multi-passionate. The days of we started a job when we were 20 that we retired at when we were 70 are gone, right? We're all multi-passionate. We all have this, you know, history of many different things that we've done. Many people have that. So it's just a matter of remembering that it's the brand of you. All of that is your journey, but talk about your journey from a strategic standpoint in a way that's going to help people understand why you do what you do today.
But what about the jobs, the previous jobs that you list on the job thing? Do you think it's not relevant, then just leave it off?
No, I absolutely think it's relevant, because somebody may connect with you that they think, oh, wow, must be the Karen that I knew 20 years ago when I worked at this company, right? So I do think it's relevant, and I do think it's all part of your journey. I just think you want to do it in a way where, like, don't think about it like it's a resume and I have to list all the things I did. Just talk about, like, you know, like a silly example is what you do now is very client facing, and one of your previous jobs where you worked at McDonald's, right? You don't need to tell me about how good you were at making French fries, but tell me how when Mr. Smith, the cranky old Mr. Smith, walked in the door, you were the one everybody shoved to the register because you were the one that always was able to schmooze him when he, you know what I mean, and to be happy, and he left happy and with less complaints, right? So do you understand what I'm saying? Like, nobody really cares if you know Word or Excel. Just put the things in there that are relevant to what you're doing now, that kind of talk about your journey, and don't think you need to talk about this other stuff, because nobody, to be honest, nobody cares about you at all. They care about what you can do for them. So you want to position your story in a way that makes them confident in your abilities to do whatever it is they're looking at you to do.
Well, I was kind of the person pushed forward with the most difficult clients. So kind of like,
there you go.
The ones that were chucking the chairs across the room, send Karen in.
Yeah, there you go. And if you don't want that work anymore, then please don't put it on there. Right? If you don't want to be the one that gets all the difficult clients, and you want the next chapter of your life to be filled with beautiful, lovely, you know, people that are just nothing but a gold mine for you, or bring gold and sunshine and happiness into your life, then that's what I want you to shine a light on, because you get to have that. You get to have that, but you've got to focus on what you want and then write the profile for that exact thing.
I actually don't mind the difficult clients.
Okay.
I actually find them a challenge.
Okay, well, there you go. Then you can put that on there. And by all means, put that on there. But just know you get to work with whoever you want in this next chapter.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's see what's in the chat. Yes, Susie said storytelling. Yes, yeah. Susie.
And I think also, Karen Ratcliffe, that people buy into people. So if you're the one that's kind of that person, then that's great. And if you enjoy them, then you're giving out that vibe anyway. And there was something else I was going to say on that, but this is why I use notes, because it just all can't remember. However, that's just one of the things that but Karen Yankovic, I love this title of your podcast, Good Girls Get Rich, because actually for most of my life, I was a good girl and I had such money blocks. I was doing everything I could. I worked so hard. I got a first-class honours degree. That's what I was going to say. In my photography, none of my clients gave a arse that I had first-class honours. They wanted for me to deliver the results and be a lovely person to be around. That's what the reviews were about, and so Karen, I'm sure that's what you'll be about. And one PR woman once said to me, to be properly empowered, women need to be financially empowered. So this is where I'm going now. I actually have sold most of the things my mother gave me, her solitaire diamond ring, more going in on Saturday to survive whilst I fight this legal case, but whilst I build me now. And I think that I loved your presentation, and I'm just so blessed to be amongst this kind of group with the energy, and fantastic, just fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, that's what I talked about, right? Surrounding yourself with the kind of people you want to bring into the next chapter with you. You get to choose that too. Yeah.
Excellent. Any more questions or observations or comments before I hand over to Ritu?
I would probably say that, you know, we talked very briefly about people buy from people. And that's actually what Sina Bounds, our company, is all about. And the network is all about. Try and, you know, do some video content and things like that as well, because that is super, super powerful. And if you find that difficult, maybe do it with your clients who might want to be a testimonial for you, because that can be super powerful as well. So you get your message out there. It's doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really sort of easy, but it may be a bit hard to begin with. But I think it's a really, really powerful tool that you can use to get sort of the clients that you want in your business.
Awesome. I'd just like to say, Charlotte, thank you so much.
Thank you
for speaking on the platform this evening, and Karen and Susie. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Karen, you're going to be a speaker later on. Next. Yes, we've already got speakers booked in till March, April next year. So yes, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you, Elaine. I know you've come to support Charlotte. It's been amazing. And Naresh, Anne, thank you for joining us. Jane, Sharon, Evelyn. And for me, it wouldn't be possible without the CEO and founder of Kaushulya UK. And over to you, Ritu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol. And first and foremost, of course, I want to say a big thank you to our wonderful speakers. Such a wealth of knowledge just in this short while as well. And 3 speakers alone, but such wealth of knowledge and understanding of life and business and how to move forward. That is entirely exactly what we are about, what we want to bring to people, to women. Kaushulya UK is a small grassroots organisation. We operate from Walsall, which is based in West Midlands in the UK, and we are gradually developing our services around domestic violence, providing awareness to people, as well as trying to broaden our horizon of services for women who may have had issues around domestic violence, and their children possibly as well. So that would do with health around mental health support, legal advice, and you know, things around understanding the system and basically helping them get back up and rebuild themselves and their life. I mean, just from what we have spoken about today, there's so much I personally can take in, and so much we can use to develop ourselves further. Thank you so much. And as Karen said, this is who we are, this is what we do. So how can you help us? Please come forward and do tell us, be of help. We would appreciate any kind of help, any kind of connections anyone could offer or help us with. And there's nothing more I can say tonight, but a heartfelt gratitude. Thank you. I have sent connection requests to all the speakers, and I would love to stay connected and, you know, learn further from you guys. And a big thank you to Carol, of course, not forgetting her effort and energy and time that is invested in bringing us all together. And she does not fail to bring the best to this platform. Carol, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for spending their time with us tonight. I really appreciate it. And please stay connected. I did share my Linktree link with you guys. It's on the top of the chat. And have a lovely evening or rest of the day wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye.